Chapter 7. A Morning Visit. A week or so passed uneventfully. Jenny, absorbed in the finishing touches of her boat, saw little of Dewey and his citified cousins. She suspected they were busy with chores and making the rounds of social calls on an assortment of distant and not-so-distant uncles, aunts, and relatives. Work on the raft proceeded nicely, and Jenny experienced much satisfaction in her efforts. Mr. Stanhill offered his advice and assistance in the evenings, but his reluctance to allow another watery foray would have to be overcome by the staunch nagging of his obstinate and persistent daughter. The budget was becoming a greater concern with each passing day. She had hoped to dazzle her creation with pretty paint and seal up a few places in the hull with caulking. The shiny brass oarlocks she had admired at the dry goods store now seemed hopelessly beyond her reach, and she would have to make do with some rusted salvage pair. To add to her concern, several new family members had been added to the Stanhill homestead. Miss Harrington, a plump and stupid hen, had brought forth a brood of 12 chicks, and Mr. Witherspoon, a neighbor, had dropped by one day insisting the Stanhills accept a half-grown puppy from his beagle's latest litter. "If you don't take him, I'll just have to shoot him," he announced glumly, "and it'll be such a waste of a good bullet." Jenny was absolutely shocked and appalled. So Henry, as he came to be known, arrived at the farmhouse and made himself at home. To everyone's amazement, Henry delighted in chasing chickens at every opportunity. In time, the puppy would prove to be a very pudgy, tangle-haired, dusty, naughty little fellow, sandy-brown in color with long, floppy black ears. It was ascertained that he was of no particular breed. One hot May morning, Jenny awoke with a happy, exultant feeling. She felt glad to be alive, and burst forth from her bed covers, determined to engage upon some glorious adventure. Her room was white, airy, and pleasant. The only colors to be seen were the pink roses flowering on the bush outside her window, the green of the tree leaves tossing in the breeze, the blue of the throw rugs scattered across the floor, and the pale violet curtains blowing in the breeze. The dainty, deep blue, curly embroidery cascading across her pink pajama top contrasted boldly with the snowy white sheets. As her lithe body collapsed onto the windowsill, her brain swiftly calculated fanciful adventures that slid like sunbeams through her mind. Vague, nebulous ambitions, hopes and plans, all bedeviled with the spirit of youth, health, and boundless energy manifested themselves. She jumped up, sponged off in a wash basin, and put on all clean clothes. She pulled a dingy cotton frock with a red cord belt from the cedar chest. Bouncing barefoot into the kitchen, she raced out the door and accomplished her morning chores in record time. She returned with a pail of milk from the barnyard. Her father, not his usual bright spirits, stood sadly over the table, placing dishes and utensils with a random, careless effort. "Hello, Daddy," she announced, slapping the milk pail down on the counter and turning for a hug. Sensing her father's discomfort, she inquired, "You look ill, Papa. Maybe you should stay home and rest today." "No, I'll be fine. Just had a rough night, that's all," he answered. "Didn't sleep until about an hour ago. Didn't do much better the night before either." Jenny noted the worried crease between his eyebrows and asked, "Think it's your nerves?" "Probably so. It's just the same terrible dream. Feel like I'm lost in a cold, clammy mist, yelling as loud as I can, but not making a sound, not even a whimper. I keep running from something and looking for something at the same time. Get so darn confused I usually wake up at that point." Jenny nodded her head sympathetically, remembering that these bouts of sleeplessness made her father extremely tired and jumpy. She absently gathered their breakfast dishes and studied her father's expression. His face looked more lined than usual, aged. His distant eyes appeared heavy, as if burdened with tears that wouldn't fall. After her father's revelation, the rest of the morning turned suddenly bleak and tiresome. Clouds had gathered in the south, the wind shifted and picked up. Only a fool would miss forecasting a brief thunderstorm. The sky darkened and the rains slowly pelted the barnyard. The useful enthusiasm of early moments had faded when confronted with the misery of a loved one, punctuated by the dreary grayness of the day. After her father had ridden off tiresomely to work, Jenny found her animal friends in dire need of assistance. Miss Harrington, who escaped through the unlatched cage while Jenny was in the barn, had wandered off, and the timorous chicks soon followed in bewilderment. But they were at a loss to keep up, and soon scattered in the tangling wet blades of cucumber vines and corn stalks. Jenny gathered the chicks, and locking them back in the pen, noticed that the mother hen was too disturbed by the weather to bother with her family. Even when locked in the coop, she showed no signs of warming and drying her charges under her wings. Week-old chicks are not to be trifled with, so Jenny decided to bundle them up in a box and set them next to the kitchen stove. She even slid a hot water bottle wrapped in a towel down next to them.